So a quick update of where we're at the moment. Unrelated to the sailboat, but related to my clinker rowboat. I picked up these nice bronze rowlocks. These are sort of captive, so you can't lose them. And I picked these up last week. I've been after a pair for a while, so I'm pretty stoked I've managed to get a pair. I've got quite a lot of work to do on my wee clinker rowboat, but once I've got some headway in it, I'll be able to smash these on and it will make it start looking pretty smart. So I'm real pleased I found those. The other thing I've done is I've taken the companionway doors into the workshop and have given them a sand and a couple of coats of varnish. They really need replacing, they're just a wee bit past it, but the flaking paint on the outside was just looking terrible, so I thought I'll just give them a bit of a spruce up and a tidy up until I get a chance to make some new ones. I've just cut a couple of bits of plywood to roughly fit the hole in the meantime, and it's sort of keeping 90% of the storm out today, although it is leaking away a bit. But so those doors will go back on probably tomorrow or the next day once the varnish has gone off a bit. And the other thing I've done is the electrical board, which is going to go up here. That's all ready to be installed. Decided I'm going to stick that in place with some fiberglass. So I've bought some resin and some glue powder. So I'll mix that up and basically use that to stick the board in place once I've prepped this. And then I'll go around the inner edges with the fiberglass tape just to reinforce all around the inside. So that, hopefully I'll get that done later this week. I've never done any real fiberglassing before, so I figured that would be a nice easy job to start with. It's kind of accessible, it's not too big, and I figured it would be a good test for my fiberglassing practice. I got all this fiberglassing materials from a place called Reed Marine in Dunedin. I've been in there 2 or 3 times now and picked up some bits and pieces, so they've got a really good selection and they're really helpful, friendly guys in there. So yeah, they're well worth checking out if you're in Dunedin and need some boat bits. The thing I want to look at today is the fuel can arrangement for the outboard motor. I've got a couple of these sort of plastic fuel cans that I've been using, and I've just been having them sitting in the cockpit floor. It's a bit of a pain in the ass because you're forever tripping over them or kicking them, and they're not secure, so they sort of rattle around. So it's not ideal. There is a sort of lazarette sort of locker at the back of the cockpit with a hatch cover that lifts up. That's not like a sealed locker at all, it just goes down underneath the cockpit and it's open to the cabin. So the other problem with that is that the fuel cans are much bigger than the actual hatch, so you can't fit fuel cans in it. So if you wanted to use that, you've got to bring the fuel cans in and slide them underneath. I'm not a fan of having the fuel exposed within the cabin, just in case I had a leaky hose or something happened and you get fumes and fuel in the cabin. I've been in a caravan that had a mild gas explosion once, and it's not an experience I'm planning on repeating anytime soon. So I really don't want the fuel anywhere inside the cabin. What I intend to do is just fabricate an aluminium fuel can that's a snug fit down into that sort of lazarette sort of locker area. The top will be wider and overhang the edge of the fuel can, so that any spills will just go down into the cockpit, so there's no danger of any fuel or any fumes coming into the cabin. I've got some 3mm marine grade sheet, aluminium sheet, that I've got left over from a couple of other jobs, so I'm going to use that. And before I sort of cut into the aluminium, like I did with the electrical board, I'm going to make a rough template out of some old plywood, and then once I'm happy that that's going to fit and it's sort of I've got all my dimensions right, I will then transfer that and cut the aluminium out, and then get that welded up. So that's the plan today, provided we don't get blown away too much. So here's the locker at the back of the cockpit. This is where the fuel tank's going to go. And here's my plywood template. It's too long at this stage, it needs to be cut down. But that's a snug fit down in there. Because it sits at an angle, I now need to go and mark the angle on the bottom so I can trim it so that it sits flat on the sort of glass fibre plinth underneath. So I'll go underneath and mark that now. So here's the template sitting down. Because it's sitting at an angle, I need to trim off the bottom so that it's going to sit flat on the floor. So I'll just use this block. And then once I cut along here, that'll sit down flat down there. So I'll go and mark the other side. So here's the other side, just put our block down. Now, interestingly, I want to replace these drain pipes just because they're quite hard and they're probably the originals, but I just noticed that steel hose clamp is rusted away, so I need to get onto that sooner than I planned. So here's my mock-up fuel tank out of the plywood. It's a snug fit down into the hatch, and on the base is sitting on the glass fibre floor, and this top edge is just sitting around on the timber. When I put the aluminium tank in, I'll actually run a seal along here before I sit that down, and that way when I'm filling it, any spills will just come around and go down into the cockpit, and there's no way any fuel can get down below into the cabin area. I have to put a filler and an outlet for the hose to the motor. So that's nice and flush, just like that. So the next thing is to cut out the aluminium. This is the aluminium I'm going to use for my fuel tank. This is 3mm thick marine grade, and I'm going to use this for the sides and the base of the fuel tank. I found a piece of 5mm thick alloy, again marine grade, and I'm going to use that for the top of my fuel tank, seeing as the top is actually going to support a little bit of the weight of the tank, and it's going to have the filler and the outlet hose coming out of it, so I use the slightly thicker bit for the top. I don't have a guillotine to cut this alloy up, so I'm going to use an angle grinder with a 1mm thick slitting disc. So I've cut all the parts out for my fuel tank. There's the base, the two sides, the front panel and the back panel, and this is the top panel made out of the 5mm plate, and this has got a hole that'll take a plate from underneath with a gasket around it, and this will have a filler, a vent, and also the outlet for the outboard motor. I've got a couple of these bronze sort of sump plugs. I'll use one as the cap, and then I'll keep the other one as a spare just in case I lose that one. So this is all ready to go away and be welded now, so I'll drop that off at the welders, and while that's being done I'll machine up this plate which will fit in underneath and take all the fittings